Good Thursday afternoon, everybody. Dr. Tyler Hamel, Kingwood chiropractor and nutritionist today, talking about intermittent fasting. Had a couple of patients asking about diet and what to do. Of course, COVID-15, COVID-19, COVID-30, that's how much weight they're unfortunately putting on. So what can we do with this? So intermittent fasting, I think this is an important and a pretty easy thing to do to help stimulate or boost metabolism, lose weight, and a host of other things. So let's go over the benefits of intermittent fasting, and I'll try to touch a little bit more, give a little bit more detail on each one. And if you guys have any questions along the way, just put it in the chat box below. Esmeralda, thanks for watching. And I'll try to get your questions, if not on live here, but I'll definitely do it afterwards. So intermittent fasting. So what does that mean? So it doesn't necessarily mean eating less, but it means eating less often, right? Giving your digestive system a break. And ideally in this case, like a 16-hour break. So I'll talk about that here in a minute. What's the ideal way to do it? You can always work up to that, of course. But intermittent fasting, so what does it do? It can change the function of hormones, cells, and genes. So that's pretty powerful for not putting anything extra in the body. You're really like eliminating things from the body, and it can change the function of hormones, cells, and genes. I always say it can be kind of a hormone reset. For insulin, which has to do with blood sugar, it can decrease insulin. It can increase human growth hormone in the system. Cellular repair. So there's a term called autophagy when we talk about kind of old cells or dead cells being, getting rid of those things because we don't need them anymore. And making room for newer cells or healthier cells. So autophagy, that is one major thing that happens in intermittent fasting. So there's three things right there, kind of subsections of that. But number two, lose weight. So I'd say probably the number one reason that people want to do intermittent fasting, or they're reading up on it, is because they want to have some kind of weight loss. Like I mentioned, through COVID, there's people who have added 10 pounds, 15, 20, 30 pounds, right? It's been challenging for some, being stuck at home, maybe working from home, not having ideal food, maybe eating more because they're at home all the time instead of an office. So losing weight, that probably is the number one reason for people starting. Number three, blood sugar regulation. So this just means that, when we're not eating as often, it gives our blood sugar a chance to stay pretty equal throughout the course of the day. And you have to be careful with this because sometimes the intermittent fasting can cause a kind of a lowering in blood sugar, which is just too much for the patient to handle. So if somebody is having blood sugar issues, and this could be diabetics or pre-diabetics, or if you're just having you notice hypoglycemia, hyperglycemia, those kind of things, you probably want to work on that at least for a little while first before doing the intermittent fasting. So again, blood sugar regulation, how could you work on that? It's just eating the right things, right? Things that aren't going to spike your blood sugar, trying to keep your blood sugar even through the course of the day. But there are plenty of people that don't have issues or blood sugar issues that could do intermittent fasting. If you're really concerned about it, like speak with your doctor, have them monitor you as you go through this, just to make sure you don't have any issues. Because I think there would be other pre-diabetics and diabetics that can do intermittent fasting, and don't have an issue. But you probably want to talk to the medical doctor or your medical doctor as well. Lastly, reduce inflammation and oxidative stress. So think of it too, when we're eating all the time, especially eating the wrong stuff all the time, it's going to cause extra oxidative stress or just wear and tear on the cells, cause extra inflammation, right? And we already know that all of us just have too much inflammation to begin with. That's why we see major problems in inflammation being, say, digestive issues or brain fog or inflammation for aches and pains and joints, right? So as a chiropractor for over 20 years, I see people coming in and those who have back pain, neck pain, headaches, who maybe aren't eating that well, it's really hard for them to get better, right? Because the things that they're eating is causing extra inflammation. Sugars, processed foods, things like that. We all know what causes that, but I know it's a tough thing to change kind of over time. So intermittent fasting, what's the best way to start? And I think this is, it's fairly simple. So it's a 16-hour fast and an 8-hour window of eating. So at first, the easiest way to do it, don't even change your eating or whatever you're eating. Just do it in an 8-hour window. 16-hour fast, so you can think, well, that's a long time. But say if you ate at 6 p.m. and you didn't eat again until 6 a.m., that's 12 hours right there. So you just go another 4 hours and wait and eat your first meal then. So when you're sleeping, you're fasting, right? You're not eating. You're not supposed to eat right before bed. So 16-hour fast, 8-hour window. So whatever time you start eating, it could be noon. You only eat to 8 p.m. And at first, don't even change your eating habits. Obviously, the cleaner that your diet is, the less blood sugar spikes, the better that you're going to do, no question. But first and foremost is just getting the fasting times down. So if you start eating, say at like I said, at noon you could go to 8 p.m., 10 a.m. you go to 6 p.m. So it is kind of a shorter window, depending on your schedule, right? If you're a morning person, if you start eating really early in the morning, then you can't eat very late into the night, right? You just pick the 8 hours. Try that for a week and 2 weeks, a month, kind of work your way up. And some people even do longer than a 16-hour fast. They might go to 17, they might go to 18. Some people for one day or 24 hours, they just won't eat at all. It's just a water fast, say. So what that does, it gives your body a break, right? Your digestive system a break, because usually it's working way too darn hard because we're all eating stuff that we shouldn't. And that takes a lot of energy from the body. It causes more inflammation, more wear and tear. So the key thing is, first and foremost, to, again, just set the time, 16-8, do that first. As you keep on going, then you can work on your diet from there. Working on the diet, changing the diet, that is the hardest thing by far. I've been doing this for 20 years, and for sure, for any patient, that's the hardest thing to change, right? To change your diet. But so at first, don't really change your diet. Just change the time you're eating. 16-hour fast, 8-hour window of eating. So if you're eating 3,000 calories a day from 8 a.m. to midnight every day, then you're just going to eat that 3,000 calories from, say, noon to 8 p.m. or from 10 to 6 p.m. Just do it that way. And just getting the break in your system from digestion can turn a lot of these things around. You can notice digestive improvements, energy for sure, right? It takes a lot of energy to break foods down, to digest food. So if we're eating, 10, 12, 14 hours a day, even snacking, that's a lot of extra stress on the body. And when you give it a break, when you're only eating for 8 hours and you have 16 hours to digest and break stuff down, that makes a huge, huge difference. Okay, so that's intermittent fasting. So what are some things that can help that? So we think, well, what can help maybe the digestive process, right? There are a few things. So there are digestive enzymes that have been around forever. So in our practice, we use multizyme. That helps more on the carb side of things. We also use Zypan. That helps. It's hydrochloric acid, helps on the protein side of breaking it down. So you'd be amazed at how much undigested stuff and junk there is in the gut from over time. So the fasting helps with that, and digestive enzymes can help with that. There's also very strong enzymes. Through Doctor's Hope, we use nattokinase. That's really, really strong. Always take it on an empty stomach. And then there's some other supplements that can help with intermittent fasting as well. But something to help with blood sugar regulation that works really, really good is something called gymnema. You might have heard of that, but it is a root that really takes away your sugar cravings. And I always tell patients with blood sugar regulations, meaning, you eat something, blood sugar goes up, it has to work to get it back down. Over and over again throughout the day that happens, and that's really hard on the system. So gymnema, when you take this, it can help with the blood sugar regulation. It'll help you with the cravings, and cravings are half the battle, right? So if people, you've heard alternative docs talk about it before, but if people didn't have cravings and they weren't eating as much carbs and sugar, that probably half the chronic health issues would significantly go down or maybe even go away. So when you look at the heart diseases and the cancer and diabetes and things like that, right? All that would change if we didn't eat so many carbs and sugars. So that's a little bit today on intermittent fasting. I just heard a little blip about that earlier today from another doctor that I know, and I think it's just important to revisit because it is a pretty simple thing. If if you're worried it's going to be too tough, then just do the fasting part of it. Even do a 12 one if you want, like 12 hours of fasting, 12 hours of eating. Start something like that, or 10 hours of fasting, 14 hours of eating, 14 hours of fasting, 10 hours of eating. You could do any combination, but it's probably going to be, a lot more fasting than you're used to and a lot less eating than you're used to, which is so beneficial. So if you guys have any questions, put it in the chat box below. I do intermittent fasting pretty much every day. I do a little bit of different of a version of it with bulletproof coffee. But it works really great, and you'll see like the changes in energy for sure, and just brain clarity. When you're not bogged down by all that food and having your body having to digest and regulate blood sugar, it makes a huge, huge difference. So again, Dr. Tyler Hamel, any questions, put it in there, and we will see you guys next time. If you learned something from this video, like it, give it the thumbs up, share it. There's so many folks out there, just especially that COVID's gone on for almost 2 years, however long it's been, struggling with their weight, and they could probably use a little information on how they can get healthier. And this is a simple thing, right? Intermittent fasting, it's a free thing. It's just changing, how often you eat, basically. Dr. Tyler Hamel, happy Thursday, and we'll see you soon.